important aspect of your role as a GRC practitioner or a GRC analyst, whichever the role is within an organization, is the fact that you will be required to be very versed, very familiar with risk management. And there are various types of risk management framework. And within each of these framework, there are various methods and procedures, steps involved in executing risk management activities. So let's just quickly look at a few of these well-known risk management frameworks so that you will be taking the initiative now to dig deeper into understanding all of the mechanics of these frameworks. Risk management is an important aspect of any organization's overall strategy. By effectively managing risk, organizations can protect their assets, achieve their objectives, and very importantly, minimize the likelihood of negative events. And that's where these different frameworks become very useful for you as a GRC professional within an organization. So when you think about a framework, and more so a framework within the context of GRC, then this is a set of principles, policies, and procedures that organizations use to manage their governance, risk, and compliance activities. A good GRC framework will help organizations to identify and mitigate risk, ensure compliance with laws and regulations, and align their operations with their business objectives. Now that we have a better understanding of what is a framework, let's look at the different types of risk management frameworks. Now, there are a number of different risk management frameworks that can be used by organizations. And some of the most well-known frameworks include the ISO 31000, and this is an international standard for risk management. We also have the COSO ERM, that's the Enterprise Risk Management Framework. And this is a framework developed by the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations of the Trade Bay Commission. And we also have the COBIT. And there are various types of versions of COBIT. Now, this is a framework for IT governance and risk management. Along with this, we also have the NIST SP 800-30. Now, this is a framework for risk management in information systems. So the specific risk management framework that an organization uses will depend on a number of factors. And this includes the size of the organization, the industry in which the organization or the business operates, and very importantly, the risk appetite of that organization or business. The ISO 31000 risk management process. So at this point, I'll be just sharing with you at a high level the process or the steps that are associated with each of these frameworks that we have just identified in terms of risk management frameworks that you will be coming across from time to time, that you'll be using this knowledge to deep dive to build your skill set in terms of the application of these various frameworks, depending on the one that is adopted by the organization that you will be working with. So the ISO 31000 risk management process consists of, and that's the scope or the process. Those are the processes involved with this framework. So firstly, you establish the context, and this step involves understanding the organization's objectives, its environment, and the risks that it faces, followed by risk identification. And this involves identifying the potential risks to the organization's objectives. Also, you have your risk assessment, and this involves assessing the likelihood and impact of each risk, which is followed by your risk treatment, which involves taking steps to reduce the likelihood or impacts of risk. Then you have your risk monitoring and review, and this step involves monitoring the risk and reviewing the risk management process on an ongoing basis. So the ISO 31000 risk management process is iterative, meaning that it's a continuous process that is updated as the organization's objectives, environment, and risk changes. The COSO risk management framework. So as it relates to the COSO risk management framework, then this process consists of your internal environments, and this step involves establishing the tone at the top, meaning that you start with management and creating a culture of risk awareness throughout the organization. Then you have your objective setting, and this involves defining the organization's objectives and ensuring that they are aligned with its risk appetite. Then you have event identification, and this involves identifying the potential events that could impact the organization objectives, followed by your risk assessment. And this involves assessing the likelihood and impact of each event. Then you have your risk response, and this step involves taking steps to reduce the likelihood or impact of risk, followed by your control activities, and this involves implementing controls to mitigate risk. Then you also have, very importantly, your information and communication, and this step involves ensuring that the organization has the information it needs to manage risk actively. Followed, very importantly, monitoring, and this involves monitoring the risk and risk management process on an ongoing basis. Now, the COSO ERM process is a comprehensive and systematic approach to enterprise risk management, and it can be used by organizations of all sizes and within all industries. The NIST-SP 800-30 risk management process, and this is a well-known risk management framework that is used within a number of organizations. So very important is the fact that this process starts with planning or preparing for the assessment. So very importantly is that this step involves establishing the scope of the risk assessment, identifying your stakeholders, and developing a risk assessment plan, followed by your risk identification. And this is where you identify the potential risk to the organization's information systems. And this can be done by brainstorming, interviewing stakeholders, and reviewing historical data. Then you have your risk assessment, which involves assessing the likelihood and impact of each risk that is identified. Then the likelihood of a risk is the chance that it will occur, and the impact of a risk is the consequence of its occurrence. The likelihood and impact of each risk should be assessed using a consistent method. Then you have your risk mitigation, and this step involves taking steps to reduce the likelihood or impact of the risk. And there are a number of different risk treatment options available, such as avoidance, mitigation, transfer, and acceptance. The specific risk treatment options that are selected will depend on the specific risk that the organization faces. Then we have your risk acceptance. That's the risk acceptance. And this step involves accepting the risk after taking into account the likelihood and impact of the risk and the costs of mitigation. Then we also have risk monitoring and reassessment. And this step involves monitoring the risk and reassessing the risk assessment on an ongoing basis. The risk should be monitored to ensure they are still relevant, and the risk assessment should be reviewed to ensure that it is effective. The NIST-SP 800-30 risk management process is a comprehensive and systematic approach to managing risks to information systems, and it can be used by organizations of all sizes and within all industries. So there you have it in a nutshell in terms of the most well-known risk management frameworks that are used by various types of organizations within different industries. So the key is to look at each of these individually, to study in depth how it is that you actually execute each of these tasks for you to complete an overall risk management process in of itself as it relates to each of these frameworks within the context of an organization. So that's very, having the skill is very important for you as a GRC professional. So that's in a nutshell as it relates to the different types of risk management frameworks that you need to be familiar with. I hope you found this information very helpful. And in addition to this information, you may also want to take your JIRA skills to the next level by exploring a number of course resources that I've actually developed to help in this regard. So let me quickly share these with you. So what we're looking at are a number of courses that are specifically developed for you to build your skills within the GRC and the cybersecurity space. So here we have various practical assessments for cybersecurity and GRC professionals, those best practices for cybersecurity and GRC professionals, not to mention developing an overall cybersecurity strategy, IT auditing fundamentals, and practical compliance management for GRC professionals. So there you have it.